Welcome into another edition of Valpo Sports Night. I'm your host, Drew Taylor. Joining me today is Mike Targonski, General Manager at WVUR, and for the first time, Brandon Spinner. He's a sports reporter for WVUR. Guys, some Valpo topics here. Let's talk about the volleyball team. The Horizon League Championships begin next week, and Valpo will most likely fall into the 4th spot. Looks like Milwaukee is running away with things, but do you see the Crusaders making a run at the title?
I think there's a chance for them just based on the history that they've had against these teams the last couple of years and this season. I mean, last year Milwaukee was the #1 seed. They're undefeated in conference, running away with it right now, and they ended up beating them in the semifinals last year. Ended up sweeping them. They only allowed 7 points in the first set. This year, they're 0-3 against the top 2 teams, which would probably be one of the teams that they'd have to play if they were to advance, or they'd have to play one of them if they were to advance moving on. This year, they're 0-3 against them. They have the one against Milwaukee on Friday coming up. But they went to 5 sets in 2 of those games. They were up 2-0 on Milwaukee, and one of them, just the stinker against Cleveland State this weekend, was a big disappointing for them. So I think they have a chance of making a run if they stay disciplined, stay focused on the things that they need to do on their side of the net, and not worry about the competition they're playing against. They have UIC first. They're 2-0 against UIC. I think they'll be able to get through to the second round, and then from there, it's anybody's ball game.
Yeah, I think they have a shot. It's going to be difficult. Always going to be difficult when you have to play 2 games just to get to the championship. But as Mike said, they have beaten some of these teams, and last year Milwaukee choked at home. At that match, it was very, very competitive. And the team this year is not, I don't think, as strong as it was last year. They had a lot of leadership last year with the 2 up-front hitters, and this year the leadership may not be there to lead them to championship. I think that there is a chance, though. They have Butler. They have struggled against Butler, though, in the as they saw last year, losing in the championship. That's a team that I think that needs to be watched. Also, Green Bay. They haven't beaten Green Bay this year, a team that in the past was relatively easy for the Crusaders to move by.
The thing about the Crusaders to me is that I think they have first-place talent. Sometimes they just don't put it together. Coach Karen Avery seems to have a very deep bench, can go to anyone she wants. But sometimes they just don't put it together, and they lose to teams like Cleveland State and Wright State when they shouldn't. You know, they're lost to teams this year that they shouldn't have lost to. But if they can get hot at the right time, I mean, who knows?
They have 8 clean sheets this year against teams too, though. So they've played very well in the Horizon League. And the big thing is the block up front. Is if their block is working well, they're going to play well. If their block's not, we've seen it go haywire for them this year. So that's why I think Morgan Bile and Ellen Vandenberg are big pieces for them in the tournament. They got a lot of swingers on the outside that can pick up kills and get some big runs put together, as we've seen throughout the year. But the block needs to get going for them in order for them to succeed and run deep into this tournament.
I think it all starts this Friday. They do take on Milwaukee at home. If they can beat Milwaukee, they'll get that confidence going into the tournament, knowing that they beat the #1 seed. They almost beat them in Milwaukee. They had a 2-0 lead. They kind of gave that away with some mental errors. And if they can prove that they can beat the #1 seed this Friday, have confidence, and they basically beat Milwaukee at home. The only other teams they really have to worry about are the other ones that, like Cleveland State, they blew that game, and the Butlers.
Consistency has been an issue. It'll be very interesting to see how they do on Friday against Milwaukee. Now, switching gears, guys, to the men's soccer team. They'll compete in the Horizon League Championships this weekend at Brownfield. Who's your key player for the Crusaders this weekend?
Kyle Zobek. The goalie, if nothing gets past you, you really can't lose the game. I mean, your defense is going to have to play well in front of you, but ultimately it comes down to if you don't give up a goal, there's no way for you to lose.
He's been very solid this year.
I would stick with Zobek as well, just because of the shutout streak and how well he's been playing all year. But you mentioned what happens in front of you, and I think Stefan Antonjevic has been a fantastic defender this year, moving from the midfield, going back, and has really helped stabilize that very veteran defensive line that they have going out there with Chad Salt and Kelvin Zeely, as well as Wei Ming Wong. So those 4 guys have been very important throughout the year, and Stefan is named to the first team this year. So I think Stefan, if I wasn't going to go with Zobek, would be one of the guys that you'd have to look for.
The thing about Stefan, I don't know if he's necessarily a vocal leader, but his teammates look at him and see the hustle that he puts forward. I mean, he goes after people. He's not out there to make friends. He's a leader by example. I mean, he's one of the captains of this team, I think, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, ask about the tournament a couple years ago if he's going to watch his anger a little bit. But no, I think he's obviously a very important piece for him, and you know he could score. So a lot of times when there's free kicks or corners, they're going to try and get his big body in front of the net too. So he's playing an important part in front of the net on both ends, and I think that's why I would go with Stefan in terms of how far this men's soccer team can go. They had they clinched the title at home against Butler. They had that setback to end the year, but I mean they were playing that game for fun. It was one of those games. We have the title, we have the home. Let's go have some fun and see what we could do out there. So I'm not too worried. I mean they played Loyola already this year, 1-0 victory on the road, and I think that playing at home is going to be a big step up for them as well.
Yeah, Loyola did upset Cleveland State in their first round game, and it might be a scary game, it might be a trap game, but if the Crusaders could just do their fundamentals and play a great game in front of their goalie, it shouldn't be that hard.
And what an advantage too for the Crusaders to host the tournament. I hope if you're watching right now and you're part of the student body that you go and support this Crusader team. I mean, they've been very good all year long, and they're an exciting team to watch. So now, guys, let's talk a little bit about the men's basketball team. They were on the road against number 16 Arizona on Monday, but lost by a score of 73-64. Are you encouraged by what you saw, though?
Yeah, when you lose 60% of your scoring, 40% of your rebounding, the guy that's played the most games in uniform and the top reserve off the bench, all the graduation or transferring, and you only have 9 guys dressed for the game, 9 guys on the road trip, 8 of those guys under scholarship, or 9 of those guys on scholarship, 10 of them on the road, and still kind of figuring out rotations, having only played 2 exhibition games and opened the season this early. I mean, November 7th is the earliest that they've started in program history. The last time they did that was in 1998-99, coming off of the Sweet 16 run. To go out there, and they were down by 2 at halftime. They had a 4-point lead late in the second half, which is an encouraging sign, and they ended the game on an 18-6 run to pull within 9. I mean, they were down by 20 with 2.5 left to go, and they pulled within 9 to end the game. And to play that early against such good competition right away, a lot of positive signs that come out of it.
It's encouraging that they played against a number 16 team in Arizona, but I don't think this number 16 team was really worth their ranking.
Sure.
4 of their main threats this year are going to be freshmen, and I don't think later in the season we're going to see Arizona up in the top 16 or in the top 20. They're a good basketball team, so don't get me wrong. The Valpo basketball team played a great game. They were 2 within at halftime. But the point that I want to make is there's encouraging things to take away, but there's also disencouraging things. To lose that momentum, not even momentum, but to be down by 2 at halftime, and then at one point they were down by 17, if I remember.
It got to 20 at one point.
And for that to happen, it's a good thing that we saw them fight back and keep clawing to stay in the game.
Yep.
But what they'll have to work on is coming out in the second half against good caliber teams like this, because you're going to see good caliber teams in the Horizon League. We saw that last year. Butler went to the national championship. So you're going to have the consistency in the second half that you had in the first half to keep yourself in the game.
Now we know what we're going to see from Ryan Brokoff. He's probably going to be the leading scorer for the Crusaders. Probably up there, team leaders among rebounds and 3-point percentage. He's a great all-around player in his junior season. But Kevin Van Vyk, for me, is a key player. I mean, last year he was more of a defensive specialist, got a lot of rebounds, hustle player, maybe scored 5 or 6 points off the bench. This year, I think he can be one of those top-tier starters in the Horizon League. He poured in 18 points against Arizona, had a very good exhibition season, but I was a little skeptical. I wanted to see what he could do against Arizona. And he kept up with those big guys.
He really kept him in the game early on. He didn't
did.
get into foul trouble, which was a question going into it about him playing, because that would be some things last year when he would come in off the bench. He really kept him in the game for the first 20 minutes or so, or for quite some time. He had 18 points along with Brokoff to be the leading scorer. And I haven't seen anybody get to the free throw line after a shot and have so many 3-point opportunities as much as you do with Kevin Van Vyk. And I think he's going to be a big key, because the question is the inside scoring. With Corey Johnson gone, Richie Edwards plays a little bit more of the 4. He can shoot the ball outside and stuff like that. So to see when they work rotation and see how much they're going to put an emphasis on getting the ball to Kevin inside, it's going to be important. The other thing is you can't turn the ball over and you can't shoot 4 for 13 in 3-point territory, which is what they were at about during that run when the game kind of pulled away in Arizona's favor.
Interesting thing about Kevin is his health. We saw that last year, that his back kind of gave him some fits, and if he's going to have those fits again this year, he might not be able to play, and that could really mess around with the lineup.
What a luxury he is, though. I mean, when's the last time we had a big man that you could throw into the post and say, you know what, go to work, big fella? Corey Johnson, great player, don't get me wrong, still playing overseas as we speak. But he was more of a swing man. I mean, he couldn't really bang in the post with some of the bigger guys in the Horizon League, and especially the bigs of Arizona. Kevin Van Vyk can score. He looked like he could score at will in that first half against Arizona, getting to the free throw line and going toe-to-toe with those big men. So.
And the big thing is offensive rebounds and get the ball back into the hands of the shooters because they have a lot of guards that can score. Will Bogan, when he gets going, can hit from anywhere on the floor. When they get Ben Boggs to play in the second half when we get back from Christmas break, that's going to be a big addition for him. And Matt Kenny is he only had 8 threes on the season last year. He's over halfway there.
Worked on a lot in the offseason.
Yeah, and then Jay Harris can hit from down there as well. There's a lot of shooters out there. You get those offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities, you could run a long way.
All right, we're going to take a quick time out, but on the other side of the break, we'll discuss Joe Paterno's legacy at Penn State. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
I'm Molly, and I'm on VUTV.
All right.
We're from Kappa Kappa Gamma. We're on VUTV.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm the WVUR General Manager, and I'm on VUTV.
We're always and we're on VUTV.
I'm Emily. And I'm Aliana. And we're on VUTV.
Hey, what's up? I'm Milk. And I'm Matt. We're on VUTV.
I'm Helen Dollin. I'm on VUTV.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Claire.
My name's Sarah.
And we're on
VUTV.
We're Kappa Delta and we're on VUTV.
I'm Rachel and I'm on VUTV.
Hi, I'm Matthias.
I'm Hillary.
And I'm Philip.
And we're on
VUTV.
I'm Tom and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Amanda and I'm on VUTV.
Hey, I'm Ted and I'm on VUTV.
We're Valparaiso Ultimate and we're on VUTV.
We're UPC and we're on VUTV.
We're the Torch and we're on VUTV.
We're Delta Sigma Pi and we're on VUTV.
We're Student Senate and we're on VUTV.
We're Boobox and we're on VUTV.
We're Alliance and we're on VUTV.
We're the Crusader Pep Band and we're on VUTV. We're Mesa and we're on VUTV.
We're Handles and we're on VUTV.
Hello, I'm Kathleen and I am with Housing Opportunities and I am on VUTV.
Hi, we're the Lutheran Deaconess Association and we're on VUTV. We are Greek University and we're on VUTV.
I'm ROTC and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Zach Clark and I'm on VUTV.
We're Sigma Phi Epsilon and we're on VUTV.
Welcome back to Valpo Sports Night. Again, joined by Mike Targonski, General Manager at WVUR, and Brandon Spinner, Sports Reporter for WVUR. Guys, with everything that's going on at Penn State revolving around defensive coordinator Jerry Sandusky, the Board of Trustees has decided to fire legendary coach Joe Paterno late Wednesday night for failing to report information to authorities. After all the good he did for that university, what's his lasting legacy?
I still think his lasting legacy is the best college football coach out there. He may have not taken it to the authorities, but he did what Penn State law, or not Penn State, but Pennsylvania state law said. He took it to the guy above him, which was the athletic director, explained what had happened, and when he didn't do anything, you can't blame Joe Paterno for not going after anything. It's the athletic director's job. Paterno is tied for the most wins in NCAA history. He really created Penn State to be the football program that they are today. After 46 years, I think I still regard him as one of the best head coaches to ever coach the game.
Legally, I think he's off the hook. That's not the question. It's whether morally he should have done something more. That's still up in the air. We'll let the legal process draw out. We don't really know everything at this point.
That's why I don't like the firing at this time. I think that to give it time to let the process work itself out and let the people who are supposed to figure that out. And unfortunately, this is going to be Joe Paterno's legacy because you're going to look at the books that he just said. He's tied for the most wins, and you're going to think, oh, maybe he retired at the end of the season. They lost a few games or anything like that. They're going to look, he was out with a chance to break it this coming weekend. But he's out because of this, and it's unfortunate. Like you said, he did the right thing that he was supposed to do in terms of tell the person above him and then see what happens from there. And that's just what we know. Maybe something comes out and we hear some more that goes negatively of Joe Paterno, and that could affect him even more. So it's an unfortunate way. I had the opportunity actually to meet Joe Paterno when I was in high school, going through football recruiting, and I actually ran into him when I visited Penn State just out of the blue. And I mean, it's unfortunate that this is the way it has to go, and that you have so many great players that have come from there that it might even just tarnish the reputation of the university. Yeah. It's unfortunate that sometimes this is something outside of sports that affects the sports world.
It's truly unfortunate, though, guys, considering that how much good he did for the university. He donated millions of dollars back to the university. You talk to any of the former players that played for Coach Paterno, he changed their lives. He was a father figure. I mean, all those things, an influential voice in that Penn State locker room. It's just so sad that one circumstance of something that he didn't do is going to, affect everything that he did do.
I think the day that he said that he was out at the end of the year to make an announcement later that night that he was gone, and I think he deserved a little bit more than a phone call to say
Absolutely.
This is it.
That's what sticks with me, too.
It's really college sports that's been going downhill in the last year. We see, especially in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Tressel, big name, he's been out. Paterno's out, and it just makes you think what else is going out there in college sports that we may not know about yet.
All right, guys, now switching gears to the National Football League. What's the more likely scenario, the Packers going undefeated or the Colts going 0-16?
I am going to go with the most likely being the Colts going 0-16. They have 2 games against Jacksonville left, a Tennessee and a Houston game, both at home. I don't see them winning within the division, even though those teams are kind of questionable in terms of how steady they can be along the way. Even with Houston leading the division, I don't think that they get through that. And so that means they have the 3 games left. One's with Carolina. I don't see Carolina Panthers, even though they're not the greatest team in the world, either going through and beating Indianapolis. And they have 2 games against Baltimore and New England. No chance. The Packers have a very tough schedule ahead, too. They play the Vikings in Week 10. It's a divisional matchup, but I don't see that happening. They play the Bears once more, the Lions coming up as well. And they have games against Tampa Bay, the Raiders, and the Chiefs. It depends on which Chiefs team shows up. But the toughest one on the schedule is the New York Giants. That if that's a game that something's going to happen to the Packers and they falter, I think it might be that Giants game. I don't see the Colts pulling out a W.
I think I agree with Mike. The most likely to happen, I believe the Colts are going to go 0-16, but I don't think either is going to happen. And no. I guess I'd argue more for the Colts going 0-16 because we've seen it in the past. Each team is going to have their breakdown at certain points. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be the 4 touchdowns, 400 yards a game guy every game.
You never know.
There's only so many weeks he can cover up for the defense. I mean, the defense has been opportunistic, getting turnovers, but there's only so many weeks. You're right. He can't be Superman every week.
Well, the Packers' defense is 31st against the pass.
Yeah, exactly.
You could argue that that's because the opponents have been down and have to throw the ball, but right. Still, if you're still giving up the most yardage, second most yardage in the NFL, there's holes there, and they can be found. And with the Detroit Lions, they're a well-improved football team, and they have the talent to find those holes in the defense and take away the game from the Packers.
We're going to take one final timeout. When we come back, we'll discuss the vacant managerial positions for 3 MLB historic franchises. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh,
We say what we want, Thursday nights at 7 p.m., only on VUTV.
Welcome back to Valpo Sports Night. Again, Mike and Brandon for our final topic of discussion today. Guys, there are 3 historic MLB franchises looking for a new manager this offseason, that being the Cubs, Red Sox, and Cardinals. Who lands where?
I think for the Cardinals, they'll get Terry Francona coming from the Red Sox. They have Ryan Sandberg interviewing for the job as well. I don't think Sandberg's first gig is going to be with the St. Louis Cardinals. Coming off the World Series victory for them. The Red Sox and the Cubs jobs are pretty much the same candidates for him because Theo Epstein was involved in both processes, which is parallel all the names together through the 2 jobs. And I think it's going to be a deciding factor is Dale Swaim. So if the Red Sox want Swaim, Mike Maddox already pulled his name out of there. Maddox would fall to the Cubs. If the Cubs want Swaim, then I think it's going to go Red Sox and Pete Mackinnon or Sandy Alomar Jr. role. I think the Red Sox are going to end up with Swain, and then the Cubs will end up with Maddox, or I think a dark horse is Sandy Alomar Jr.
Okay.
Well, Mike took exactly what I was going to say.
You can run through the scenarios again if you want.
Mike Maddox, he's got more of a tie with the Cubs, with his brother being Greg Maddox, and he's been in the front office the last couple of years, and that could be a pull. Maddox must have dropped out of Boston for some reason. He said that it was because his family was already in Texas, but if that was the reason, he would have pulled out from the Cubs as well. I think he's the front runner for the Cubs right now, but Dale Swain is another guy that could be in that chair for the Cubs. Whoever doesn't get the job with the Cubs, I think, well, Maddox has already pulled his name out, but I think Swain would go to the Red Sox, like Mike had said, and Francona is probably the best guy for the Cardinals. He's a proven winner. Except for this past September, but they still won 90 games. And the Cardinals are probably the one team that he could go to and continue that winning because they have a lot of things in place. They just came off a World Series title, and I think that's his best fit.
It's a nice time to be a free agent manager, isn't it? I mean, these 3 coaching jobs rarely open up, and they're all in the same offseason. I mean, Tony La Russa was a staple with the Cardinals, and obviously Francona won 2 World Series with the Red Sox, things like that. But I think Dale Swain, I think, is going to be land with the Cubs. He's that sturdy presence. He's been the hitting coach for the Brewers the last few seasons, but he's that guy who can also be hard on guys. He can be hard on Alfonso Soriano, who's not performing, but he also has a laid-back approach. He relates to the players very well, and I think he's the best fit for Chicago.
I mean, you bring up a lot of good points, too, and I think that the only thing that is making me think it's going to be Maddox is that they have their hitting coach in place in Rudy Jaramillo, that they need someone to improve this pitching staff. And Mike Maddox is definitely the guy. If you've seen what he's done with Texas the last 3 years, 2 straight World Series, one of the best rotations in baseball, and a very good closer and everything. I think that he has a good mental approach to the game. I do think Francona has a chance with the Cub job as well, just because of all the connections. But I think the connections might be a reason why he's not a consideration for the Cubs job as well. You don't want to say, oh, we're bringing over everybody, kind of thing. So I think Maddox has the upper hand just because he has the pitching part of the spectrum down.
That'll pretty much wrap things up here for this edition of Valpo Sports Night. I want to thank Mike Targonski, General Manager at WVUR, and Brandon Spinner after his first episode. He's a sports reporter for WVUR. I'm Drew Taylor. I want to thank you for watching. Tune in next week for an all-new edition of Valpo Sports Night.